In this lecture, we're fixing an issue with our game objects, and we're also talking about the Unity order of execution. Let's get started. Where we're at the moment is trying to learn some of the fundamental principles of programming and Unity, not necessarily to do it the perfect way, but to be learning these things. So I've left a couple of dodgy things in there so that you can see how it works, feel a little bit of the pain, so to speak, so that you understand why we're doing the things we do. One of the bits of pain we've got in there at the moment is if I've got my projectiles that I've been playing around with, if I want to move them, I need to enable them so I can see them, move them, play around with them, like, oh, I want to do something to the prefab. Let me just enable all of these. There we go. And then for everything to work properly, I have to go and unenable them, or else I get an issue. And what is that issue? Let me just show you. Well, if I click on play and boop, 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 and I'm like, oh, whoops, I forgot to do what I needed to do with turning them off, but that's okay. I'll keep playing my game. Then boom, I hit my trigger volume, and all of a sudden I get this error. Let's click on the console. In one of your scripts, you're trying to access something that has been destroyed. And essentially, if we go over to project, look at the trigger project, I think this is the one that's doing it. You see that when we hit our on trigger enter, we're saying if it's the player, then hey, set the projectile game object to true. But unfortunately, in our fly at player script in here, we're saying when you reach the player's position, then destroy yourself. So we're trying to set a destroyed thing to true. There's a few ways that we could resolve that. We can do some null checks. We can do some is it valid check. I'm just going to stop out of this. We can organize our trigger volume more nicely, so it's a list or an array. There's a bunch of things we can do, but trying to keep everything pretty simple at the moment so that we learn the concepts and take things one step at a time. And one thing we can do to solve this for now is to say, well, let's turn these things off in code. Let's set their enabled status to false within our code so that we don't have to remember to go and manually disable them. Because if we forget, we get issues, and it also makes it a bit of a pain to move them around and play around with them. So let's go ahead and do that, but I'm going to give it to you as a challenge. The challenge is to make our game objects inactive. We want to make sure that we have some code to stop our projectiles from being active when we start our game. So in other words, setting their set active to false. So the challenge is to add one line of code to start that ensures our projectiles start as inactive. And I'm not going to tell you which script to put that in, but have a think about where that needs to be. It's just one line of code, and you need to think about who's going to own the fact that it should start off asleep, so to speak. And just a note here, we do have one bug that we'll fix after this challenge. See if you can find what that bug is, and don't worry about it just yet. We will fix it after the challenge. So there is your challenge. Pause the video. I'll see you back here when you're done. So the first question is, who needs to be responsible for saying you should start off asleep? I think the script needs to be on the object that's saying start off not active. And so that would be the fly at player script. If I click on fly at player, we can see all the way up at the top here, we've got start, and above my player position, I will start with game object because we want to impact the game object and change the set active to false. So set active parentheses false semicolon. That is how we would say when start is called, this thing will be set to false. Now, let's go and see what that does. First of all, it should get rid of my error. Or maybe I need to go clear my error first. So we'll clear the error, and it'll pop back up if it's wanting to come back up again. I'll click on my trigger volume so I know where it is in my scene. It's just there to the right of me. Click on play. Everything's turned off. Excellent. So we've managed to turn that off in our code. When I move to the right, through the trigger volume, these things fly at me, or did they fly at me? So here's the bug I was referring to. I'm going to move the trigger volume a little bit. Actually, I'll move my player down a bit down here, and I'll put the trigger volume in front of me because I keep trying to run forward when I'm doing this, and it doesn't work so well. I'm just going to stretch my trigger volume a little bit so I definitely bump into it. So there's my trigger volume well ahead of the player. When I click on play, nothing flies at me. Watch where the game objects go to. Watch where the projectiles go to. Boop, I've just gone through the trigger volume, and they all go nowhere near me. What's going on here? They should have flown to the player position. The problem is that start is recognizing these two things at the same time. It's saying, okay, set yourself to active false, can do, and also store the player position at the same time, can do, so that when we reactivate this, it's already figured out the player position is wherever we started off at the very, very start of our game, which is not what we want to do. And so there's a cool solution to this, which instead of using start, we can use awake. And that's a good time for me to mention that Unity has an order of execution for event functions. There's an actual order that things get called in. So far, we've only been playing around with start, and we've been playing, hopefully that's big enough to see on the screen, start, and also update. They're the two. Actually, that's a bit of a lie, isn't it? We've got on trigger and on collision. So we've used 4 of these callbacks so far, but Unity has a whole ton of them. Awake, on enable, reset, start, fixed, update. And some of these have their own particular loop. So you can see there's a physics loop in here that loops. And that physics loop can run at a different speed to the overall game loop. We've got game logic, which is where we have update. And then we've got scene rendering and gizmo rendering and decommissioning. There's a lot of things in here that we can be calling, and they operate in slightly different ways at slightly different times and do slightly different things. The point here is awake happens before start happens. It's the very, very, very first thing. So that's when we're clicking play and everything wakes up. And I've been using the word a little bit incorrectly, haven't I? I've been talking about, when our game object wakes up, which it's kind of waking up when we're calling start, but technically it wakes up on awake. So let's move set active into awake. That's pretty straightforward. Give ourselves a couple of lines. Just type awake and we should find our autocomplete for that. I'm just going to remove private from here. We've talked about that a bunch, so I don't need to talk about it again, and put my curly braces down on the next line. I've removed private just so it looks like start, so they're looking similar there, but both of them are technically private. We just don't need to see it. And then I'll grab game object, set active false, cut that, paste it into awake, tidy up my lines a little bit here, save, back over into Unity. And now when I click on play, the very first thing that should happen is that those game objects are told to be inactive. And now when I run through my trigger volume, everything should be flying at me, right on top of me, instead of flying at the spot where I was when the game first started. So there we go. We've done one of the fundamental things to do in game development, which is finding something that's not quite right and fixing it, and using an extra piece of machinery that Unity offers us, which is using awake. And we had a brief look at the order of execution for event functions, and I'll give you a link for this. You can search for it, order of execution, or you can click on the link in the resources. Either way, you can have a look at it, and it's something that you'll be looking at more and more and more throughout your Unity journey to understand how all these things fit together. So there we go. I'll see you in the next lecture.